I'm very late to the game, but with the newest Final Destination being on HBO Max now, I just had to check it out. I've been following this franchise from the start, so 14 years after the previous installment, we finally got another sequel, so let's just dive right in. So if you are aware of the franchise, someone has a vision, they stop a disaster that should have killed many, Death gets his feelings hurt, and he goes after all of them after the fact because you don't cheat death. And they put a little twist on the typical opening formula, which was cool. This film is still very similar to previous installments. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. The way Death strikes is still highly entertaining and extremely graphic. There is some suspense, not being sure how he will finish somebody off. But one thing this film does is it adds more comedy to everything, which appears to be hit or miss with people. I think for a sixth installment of a horror franchise, arguably past its prime, I feel it would be hard to take a new installment completely seriously anyway, so I largely didn't mind the comedy in the movie. And several moments are very cartoony, and enjoyment for that is going to come down to personal preference, but I don't feel it ruined the experience, despite how jarring the tonal shifts could be. And I feel they still don't do a great job building any of the characters. It stays pretty surface level, which I get is likely intentional, but I do wonder how one of these films would do if they just put like 25% more effort into that. Although I'm not saying we need another sequel. And I could not review this without mentioning the late Tony Todd, a horror icon, and his brief scene was truly satisfying and even a bit emotional because that moment, in particular, was done really well. I'm glad he got to make one more appearance in this, so rest in peace. But overall, the most recent Final Destination film this year is plenty entertaining and over the top. The gore and blood is CGI, and while a couple moments felt a bit too much in that regard, it was still intriguing and creative. Definitely not the strongest installment in the franchise, but I would at least take this one over maybe the fourth and fifth films, from what I can remember. But those are some thoughts on Final Destination Bloodlines. What do you think of my review? But more importantly, what did you think of this 2025 horror movie?